everybody, we are Bean and Bagel. We are a married couple from the Midwest. He's from Michigan, I'm from Minnesota, and together we like to post videos. We post videos once or twice a week. If you like to subscribe, we'd love to have you. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about my Minnesotan accent. We did do a previous video that we can link for you in the description about my accent, where Bean kind of gave me a hard time about some of those words. So some of these are words, that he does give me a hard time about, but some of them are just like common phrases here in Minnesota. So we thought we'd give you a little education about that too.
Yeah, so like a lot of places, when you see something that you think is adorable or something like that, you might just say, oh, that's adorable, or oh, that's cute. But in Minnesota, they have a very unique way of communicating that.
Yes, so we would say, oh, for cute. And it's not even like for cute, like F-O-R, it's for cute. You have to make sure that you get the F-E-R sound, like, oh, for cute. It'd just be like, oh, you gave me like this present, oh, for cute. Like, it's just like when something's super adorable, a Minnesotan might say, oh, for cute.
So then they also like to drag out words. Most places you might say, I had a good day, and they might say it a little differently.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, I had such a good day today. Or it's like very long A, like very kind of nasally, like I'm realizing like you have like a nasal kind of intonation with the A's too. So it's like you just kind of exaggerate your A's and you'll fit right in.
It's so funny because they're like, oh, I feel so blessed on the Lord's Day. It's the Lord's Day.
The Lord's Day today.
And then they've also adopted some things that our neighbors to the north, the Canadians, do. But I'll let her explain that.
So I will say A on the end of sentences occasionally. So I might say to Greg like, oh, it's really cold out there today, eh? And it's kind of like something that you put on the end of a sentence when like you kind of know somebody's gonna agree with you, but like you might just kind of be like inviting a conversation. So you'll just say, hey, like kind of like, you think so too,
Well, and it kind of ties into what they call a Minnesota goodbye, where they're always trying to invite more conversation when you're just trying to leave. So like I might be like, oh, it's cold out there today, or man, it's cold out there. And then if the other person says something, cool, if they don't, whatever. But that's their way almost of like continuing the conversation, even though you're just maybe just making a statement that, man, it's cold out here.
Yeah, and I think sometimes maybe that's where like the Canadian Minnesotan thing, it might be slightly different, where it's like they might just say A and it's like it's not even really like a question, it's just how they end their sentences. But I feel like how I use it is more of like, hey, you want to talk about this? You're just like you can add on to the conversation. So I don't know.
Well, and they'll also ask end questions in a funny way too, not just the A part, but they also have another version of the way they end certain questions, which is interesting. But in Michigan, where I'm from, we have that as well. Like we'll say a question and it'll be like, do you want to go to this place, and it'll end with that ... It'll just be like, what do you think? What do you think? Do you want to do this? Or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, and if it was a Minnesotan or possibly like Wisconsin, North Dakota, we would say like, oh, do you want to go do this or no? Or yeah, or no. Again, instead of like an O-R, we make it an E-R. So you kind of have to get that little nasally twang of no. Like, do you want to have that today or no?
No.
No. So, yeah.
Another one that they do that I like, I've kind of adopted it, is, because usually if somebody asks me a question, I might just be like, nope, I don't want to do that. But in Minnesota, they really emphasize it, and they're like, nope.
I think you do it better than a lot of Minnesotans. Like, you've really taken it on. So, yeah, we would just say, nope, nope, nope. Like, nope. just the long O, just add a little extra to your O and you'll fit right in. Just like Bean has come along with his, at least in that word.
I've adopted it because I find it fun to use sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if she gives me like a honey-do list or something like that, I'll be like, nope.
Yeah.
And then, when you ask somebody a question and you're kind of trying to get them to confirm in a way of like, do you agree? That kind of a thing. Minnesotans have a unique way of the way they do that.
Yeah. And this is one I would say, this is actually one that I don't use very often, but I think if you went to like northern Minnesota somewhere, you were talking to like an older person, like they would definitely say, don't you know? So yeah, don't you know? It's up in Hinckley, don't you know? Like, like
yeah,
they would definitely like use that in a sentence, and it's don't you know?
It almost sounds like, you're questioning the person's intelligence, where you're kind of like, how do you not know this?
Yeah.
But you're saying it in a
nicer way.
Polite kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's, like in our last video, we talked about like how like my grandma, she would always use the word wash instead of wash. But her grandma actually has had a unique one that she used when it was about like coffee shops or restaurants and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my grandma, she liked to go out to eat and stuff, so she would go to the cafe instead of the cafe. And I have never heard this outside of like my grandma and like northern Minnesota, so I'm curious if any of you out there are from northern Minnesota and you have any relatives or anyone that says this, or maybe you say it yourself. But cafe, I don't know if they think it sounds like fancier or more French to say I went and had some coffee at the cafe. But to me it just sounds kind of funny, but it's out there. So I'm just curious if any of you have heard that or say that. So then just one more kind of bonus one that I thought about that I kind of realized like over time, when you get to be an adult, you're just like, oh, I don't say this the same as like everyone else. Especially like at college and stuff was like kind of when I was around more people that were from like all over that had different accents. And, here in Minnesota and probably a lot of the Midwest, I think we say grocery store, like with the SH sound.
Yeah, in Michigan we say grocery, or at least I do.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of other people say grocery, and they think it like that's the very like proper way to say the grocery store. Mm-hmm. To me, that sounds kind of silly, like you're trying to sound like a very like formal British person, like I went to the grocery store. Like what is the proper way? Maybe we do say it weird here in Minnesota or the Midwest. So
well, and it's even like when you say grocery store, obviously that's probably incorrect. It reminds me of when people say ambulance instead of ambulance, or library instead of library. Yeah. So there's just certain ways that we say things that are funny.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't sound too uneducated, like when people say ambulance.
Ambulance.
But anyways, that is our video for today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll try to keep making some more accent videos, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
See you later.